does me taking Jovi and doing the things I do with her, does that translate as an act of service to you?
Yes. Yes and no.
I think it should be more no, but I want to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I need a bag, bruh. Send it through quickly. I'm making his dog like I'm in the big leagues. Yeah, I told him I'ma hit it out of stands. I deserve another 100.
Welcome to another episode of the Married Game Podcast. We're the voice you trust when it comes to lust, and we are who you hire when she lacks desire. You would go to prison if looking beautiful, being amazing, and being awesome were crimes. And let's talk about this last weekend when I took Jovi to medieval times.
Oh my God. I never know where you're going with it.
I know, that's why I love the look on your face. You're like,
like anticipation.
Is he going to land? Is this going to land? Why is he?
I love that we don't know. We never know.
Yeah, so
we never know.
So I wanted to ask you a question about we had a great weekend. Mm-hmm. You went away, you got to spend time with your mama and all that good fun stuff. And I took Jovi and Isla and Garrett. We all went to medieval times and just did a fun thing. And then Isla came over and spent the night. So this doesn't have to be a long discourse, and we can talk about some other fun stuff. But I did want to ask you what you think about what happens to you when I do stuff like this, and then what do you think women think about when their husbands really step up and just go aggro in the dad mode? Is this something you're open to talking about today,
yes,
Jesse Joy?
Yes, I'm open to that. I love talking about parenting and Jovi and what goes on in my head. First of all, I freaking love you spending time with her because, like, to spend like few hours with her, like I get that time. And then now she's becoming like preteen and like, so it's like I feel like we only have a couple years, so it means so much that you're cementing yourself into her, mm-hmm. and your abundance and your excitement and all your mentalities and attitude. Then the next couple of days I see her like cling on to you, and I love that. Yeah, because I do think children need a mom and dad. They're like a more masculine and more feminine mothering. I think it's really important that kids have both. Mm-hmm. On top of that, because you were not so great in the beginning, that is something now I'm like, oh, yes. Like he's figuring it out. He's doing it. He's doing all the things. And it for me, then I look at you, like it's way more attractive. When I look at you, I'm like, wow, like he's doing it. It's really exciting to me. Then there's another thing I think about, and I'm like, I freaking love my alone time. Mm-hmm. So for me, I become whole again as well.
Yeah.
And then I know you feel the love from her, and then I feel the love from being by myself, and then I feel like you're doing it for me and doing it for you and doing it for her, and it just, everyone benefits. It's a win-win-win.
The triple win.
Exactly.
I haven't been taking Mondays off like I used to, and so taking yesterday afternoon to go watch a movie by myself, reminded me of why I do that, and I was like, oh my God.
I love that you brought that up. I kind of did want to talk about that only because of just the way we handled that situation was amazing.
Which one?
Well, let me just toot my own horn. Like okay. I was just so like, if you want to go, you get to go. Like you're your own person, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm not your mom. I'm not anything. And so I know that I like you home after work, of course. And some seasons are busier than others. But when you were like, kept asking me to go to the movies and just kept not working out because of Jovi's schedule, I was like, oh, do you want to go? Go. And I just love how we did that.
Yeah.
And then you even felt like good to be on your own doing it. And I was like, that felt good for you. Like,
yeah,
and you just come home when you're done. Like,
I got to start scheduling more me time because I've forgotten what it was like to not be.
I'm just really happy that worked out for you.
Yeah. So because we talk about when a guy steps up and he's a better dad, that it's attractive for a woman. What is it? What does that mean? Does it make you more sexually into me? Does it just make you more like I want to be around him? Like,
well, that's
what
the fruit of it, I think. Okay. Sexually into you. But it just, as a whole, like I just fall more in love with you as a whole, as a person, because you are my kid's father. Mm-hmm. You are the only person in the whole world to fulfill that role. And when you're excelling at it, I'm like, I just love you.
Got it.
And then, of course, that's that goes along with it because I just love you.
Because see, I've always interpreted it, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, okay? Probably going to be right, but that's okay. But just because I'm right doesn't mean you're wrong. Or just because you're wrong doesn't mean I'm right. No. It's
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. It's for me, it's almost like it's not going to get you laid more per se. It's going to keep her from growing so resentful to you that you get laid less.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel like the parenting dial does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and a guy should not be doing it to get laid. He should be doing it because this is his duty in life, is to
So that's
be
what
there.
I think exactly. But it's not gonna, if you aren't excelling in the parenting dial, like I don't want to lay you.
Exactly.
I don't want to.
Yeah, so if you don't do it, she's going to be resentful and not want to have sex with
Yeah.
you. But if
So
you
it will
do
hurt,
do it,
yeah.
then it's helpful and it's rad, but it's more of it's almost more of a better defense than maybe even an offense
I like
in
that.
terms of sexual attraction.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of overall, like I just love this guy so much,
Yeah, look
which
at
then
him.
causes you to be like, whatever he wants, I want to give him. So in reality, it is good offense, but
Exactly.
the your best offense is a good defense. They
Well,
say.
it's not like I look at you like all with your shirt off and in the sun glistening or whatever, but
Yeah.
I look at you and I'm like, you're the only person that can make me feel that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a really interesting wrinkle.
Mm-hmm.
Look at you.
Like no other one can come in and be the dad. You're the dad. Like, so when I see you doing, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And we also know what it's doing to her.
I know, which I say this all the time, like to you, I'm like, if Jovi's happy, I'm happy. Like if we go stay at a kid hotel, if we, do kid things, if she's happy, like I'm happy.
Yeah.
So when she's happy with you, I'm really happy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. Also, this week we learned something interesting. We got a good phrase out of it that I think will be pretty telling. And it was even if she's wrong, it doesn't mean you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what that means for you and how that came about for you.
Well, I think that one's so important that we just came up with that little cute phrase. You did, because you're good at that. But it's so true, because when someone thinks that person's wrong, they get all like, yeah, exactly. And then they try to like beat that down into the other person, and then they feel like they're on their high horse and they're way better. Like, but that doesn't mean that you're right in your area also. So I know you and I have run into this thing before in the past where it's like, well, like say you have an issue with me, right? And I'm like, well, and I don't do this right in the spot. Like, well, me too. But it's like, your shit doesn't smell any better than mine. Like, I got shit too. You got shit. We got shit together. So it doesn't mean that if you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong. We're both wrong. Now let's fix it. But we're wrong in our own areas and things.
Yeah. There's another concept I want to throw on the table. We can go deeper on that one and we can go deeper on this one. I just want to make sure my mind remembered it. And it was this very interesting shift for me so we joke around how I like compliments and physical touch and these things, right? And there are some women that are just naturally built to give those out freely. It's the way they are necessarily wired. And you like when a guy does acts of service for you. And there are men that are just naturally wired and geared to provide that. And we're kind of a little bit opposites in that regard. And the shift that I realized that was a very big difference was this. And I think this would be a really interesting concept. We don't have to pick it fully up today. And we can go back to the concept you just mentioned, or we can fully dive into both these some other time, or we can try and tackle them both now.
Okay.
That being said, I just want you to know you have options.
Thank you.
I used to look at me going, well, you need to just love me for how I am. I'm not much of an acts of service guy, and but I show up in different ways. And I realized that was a very selfish way of looking at life. And I realized why I didn't want to do it for so long was because I thought I was just being told what to do, and I didn't like that. What I realized, though, this was a big, big shift for me, and understanding, and it's like, listen, you're not becoming somebody who you're not to try and get love from somebody. You are telling that other human being, I want you to feel so fucking loved that I'm willing to learn how to love you in such a deep way because I love you so much. Mm-hmm. Do you see the difference there? Mm-hmm. Rather than, this is just who I am, quit trying to change me. We're not saying that at all. We're saying, no, I love you so much that I'm willing to learn how to show up in a way that you feel radically loved. It's the ultimate display of true love, is to actually show up in a way that's meaningful for the other person.
A lot of people do things that are easier for them to do because it's the bare minimum, instead of going all the way and learning what's really hard for them to do.
Yeah. But I don't know if you have any greater act of love than that. To be like, I'm not much of an acts of service guy, quote unquote. I'd rather just sit here and tell you how awesome you are, because that's really easy for me. And I used to somehow weirdly think that you were trying to change me. But recently I've heard people say stuff like this, like, yeah, I am loving you, but in my own way. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not feeling it, hearing it, understanding it, or even getting it. So you might as well be speaking Mandarin Chinese to me, because I don't understand a fucking thing you're saying to me. And
so
then,
if you love that person, why wouldn't you try to learn their language?
Yeah, and actually not just, and not be like, well, I'm trying, because that's,
or take it or leave it. This is me.
Yeah.
You're like,
but rather than like, I'm not, if I really loved you, this is the biggest understanding. If I really, really genuinely like loved you, not just felt love, but actually acted on my love to you, how you receive that would be the only way I give a shit. That took me a long time to understand.
Yep.
And yet, now that I say it, it's so stupid simple.
I know.
It's like, what?
I know. We don't jokingly say that you need more compliments or whatever. Like, I could voice that more. Do you know what I'm saying? You said we jokingly say this, but we don't jokingly. Like, I could be better at that. That's something I do struggle at.
Yeah, but there is a little bit of joke in there's a little bit of joke in it.
There's always a little bit of joke in everything we say.
Okay, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
And you're are learning the acts of service way, which that's what I really like.
Does me taking Jovi and doing the things I do with her, does that translate as an act of service to you?
Yes. Yes and no.
I think it should be more no, but I want to hear what you're saying.
Because I feel the benefit from it, because I get to be alone for hours, right? But no, because you're her dad. Yeah. And you should be doing that anyway. So sometimes my mind is like, okay, when are you going to hang out with her? Like, take her. And then sometimes you're really proactive about it. I'm like, yay, it's for me too. You know, my alone time.
Yeah.
So yes and no.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
And you think more no?
Well, it's like, it's always is interesting for me to think that a guy would want to be praised for being a good dad when that's like your job.
I agree. But one time you said something to me and I was like, well, you said, like, even though you're supposed to do something, it's still nice to say thank you. So I still say thank you. But I do think it's your job too. You're her dad. You're a dad. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah. Maybe it's not the act of just doing the thing, but maybe the praise should be around how well you did the thing.
Well, surprising him with, where'd you go?
Medieval times.
Yeah. That's a really cool idea.
Well, we were really worried about it. We didn't know if our 10-year-old daughter, now 5-year-old niece Isla, I'm sure, like how can that not be good? She was a little even nervous, like, oh, there's a dungeon? I go, oh, it's the darkest dungeon. Oh, I don't want to do that.
But preteen Jovi, who's super sassy and already 15 years old in her mind, is like, any day could be, any hour, you're like, she's like, ew, or yay. It changes.
Well, when
so
we
often.
sat down, the very first start when they were explaining, I go, how are you? She goes, I'm bored. I'm like, oh, God. Here we go.
That's all she says.
Literally. Good thing Uncle Garrett really.
I literally brush her hair. She goes, I'm bored. I'm like, it's like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. That's really funny when she does that.
Not that funny.
Let's get back to the, let's get back to the, just because she's wrong doesn't mean I'm right. This was a big one for me to understand.
Yeah. Why? And what do you think about that?
Well, something about humans likes to think they're right. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why people say, like, there's a reason why we all have the hate that I told you so. Because we hate to be wrong and we hate when the other person's right. Something about as humans,
I think we're born like that and have to learn to.
I don't know if we're born that way or if our society has called. I mean, think about it. We have a armchair quarterback society. There's people every single day on TV commenting about the lives of people that are 100 times better than the people commenting on them. And the person commenting could never in a million years pull off anything that the people they're commenting on about. And almost every TV show is like that. So you grow up in a culture where you've got a guy that's 400 pounds, probably never played football in his life, but understands stats really well, talking about how this quarterback should have done this or should have done that. And that guy can't even fucking tie his shoes.
Yep.
So you grew up in a culture like that, then what is your whole mentality is bent on? I got to make sure I'm right. The whole entire schooling system is memorize a bunch of facts so that you get good marks so you're not wrong.
That's what it is too.
It
makes sense.
Every aspect of it is, if you mess up, you can't mess up. Brian messes up, I mess up, Lexi messes up, and we go, okay, why did you mess up? What happened? Because we don't want to mess up. Everybody who works here wants to be great at what they do. And so we're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to. Messing up is not the problem. It's messing up over and over and over on the same fucking time, same thing. That's a fucking problem. Not preparing so that you can minimize messing up, that's a fucking problem. You know what I mean? So it's like these types of mentalities, but a guy, when he thinks, oh, she's wrong, he then immediately thinks he's right. And then he starts acting like this way, like you talked about, like almost high and mighty.
Yeah.
Or like the moral authority. And it's like, yeah, but you're not. And that was such a difficult concept for me to grasp, because I'm like, Jesse's wrong right here. And I know she's wrong. And I'm also wrong. Because there's in our society, it's either right or wrong. What if you're both fucking wrong?
Yeah. And usually that's the case.
To a degree, yes. And so I was able to literally take all of the sting out of what was going on, because I realized, well, just because she's wrong doesn't mean I'm right. And then when you have that mentality, just because you're wrong doesn't mean I'm right, that also breeds in the, I'm not better than you. I don't think I'm better than you because I have a better ideal about this. And I think what it does is it causes us to not be so pitted against each other. You're wrong, I'm right. You ready to come to the right side? And that's all another.
You ready to say sorry?
Yeah.
That too. Say sorry about it then. It's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some bullshit, dude.
You're some bullshit, dude.
That's some bull. That's some total bullshit.
Yeah.
These are not easy lessons. I got some questions that guys want for us. I think we could pick apart either of those two topics and go a little deeper, or we may have just hit what we needed to hit on that one.
Yeah.
Well,
ask me some questions.
In every argument, every time the person thinks they're right. When you and I are in a tiff, do you think you're right?
I think I'm right about some certain areas, but I feel like we're always wrong, both of us. Like we are. We're fighting because we're both wrong about something in a different area. So I'm like, I know I'm like acting up or acting out of emotion right now.
Yeah.
But this little thing I feel like I'm right about is why I'm fighting about it. But I get really mature in my emotions when I'm talking to you. So I know I'm not saying the right things. And I feel like you not hearing me is the wrong part on your end. So I'm like trying to explain something and you're like, nope, like your ego likes to get in the way of our argument. So that is literally how we argue. And then we start arguing about how we're arguing. And I know I'm arguing wrong because I'm really immature right now because I'm frustrated. So I know I'm wrong in this area, but it just keeps coming out. And then I'm like, we got to stop. We got to take a pause because I'm not saying anything clear at all. Just, I hate your face right now. That's all. So anytime we come back and I'm like, I'm mad about this thing. I feel this way because.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I can see how you feel that. And then there we go. Resolved.
Yeah. The ability to see someone else's perspective, especially when you know you're right and they're wrong, is really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And the ego, holy shit. I think
every podcast we bring up the little ego, like, and the ego, and your ego wants to come in, and
the old phrase, your ego is not your amigo, is so true. But it seems like I'm learning it more and more and more and more and more and more and more, like more reality.
Well, I think you're learning where it pops up. You're like, you didn't think that was your ego. You just thought you were right. I'm like, well, that's your ego defending your little boy, your ego. You're just learning how it comes out of you now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other lesson that I'm not great at, I'd even maybe just dare say I'm just getting a little better at, is holding my tongue.
When you said that just because I'm right doesn't make you wrong, or if you're right doesn't make me right. What would you say? Say it again.
Just because she's wrong doesn't mean you're right.
Okay. When that happens, sometimes you want to defend, right, what you're saying, and defend it, and then kind of like, little jab here, and this is why, and then it just makes it worse. So holding your tongue and just saying, and like I said, like you said, you're getting better at it, is when you're like, let me think about that. That's a good little trick, right? You're like, well, let me think about that. Instead of like, no, or
yeah, but there's a thing that helps me with that, though, that I think that you're really good at, that has helped me with that, is we might say something to the effect of, or I'll go, let me think about that. In the past, you would have still had your chip on your shoulder. And funny statement. But yeah. But recently, I think this is why I always wanted to settle the debate then and there, is because I didn't know if you had the ability, or if anybody has the ability, to be able to go, okay, we've got this disagreement, but we can literally just go, let's pick that up at another time and let's be agreeable and move forward, and like nothing ever happened. That is not something that's easy for humans to do.
When you have an anxious attachment style and you want to fix it because you don't want to like be in a fight for days. Yeah, I don't think I had that grace to even like show you I can do that, right? Because if we beat it down, then we start talking out of emotions, we just make the whole situation of what's so small way worse. Like, and then, like I said earlier, we're like fighting about our fight. Instead of just that little problem, we can just say, let me think about that and move on.
Yeah.
Let's pick that up later. It's like the jabs that we keep throwing at each other, then we're now in a fight for days over this stupid issue that we could have just handled.
Every guy listening to this and any woman listening to this is probably like, holy fuck, that's exactly what happens to us. I don't know of anybody that doesn't happen to. But yet, as we're sitting here describing it, it sounds so idiotic.
Yep.
Like, how could so many smart people be so dumb?
Yes. Yep.
When in reality is, oh yeah, we have an issue about how we're gonna wash that fork. That doesn't have to be
literally.
Doesn't have to be a 2-day event. Like fork washing can be a 2-second thing.
What we mostly fight about is our fight. How we fight. Not now, but what we used to.
Yeah.
Yep.
That little boy in me gets so triggered.
He gets so hurt, doesn't he?
He just hates you sometimes.
He hates his mommy, huh?
Yeah, he fucking hates her. So crazy.
You got any questions for me?
I don't know if we have time today to dive into them. I'm gonna pre-question the questions. Here's the pre-question of the questions. We won't be able to get into this because we don't have time today.
What if it's juicy?
It's gonna be.
Ah, shit. Okay.
But I think we can pre-answer the answer. Well, you tell me.
How about we just say stay tuned for the answer?
Tell him again, Jesse.
Just a little game him a little bit.
Ooh, look
tease.
at you. Ooh. All right. What was the journey like for you, Jesse, coming to some of your ideas on life and marriage? The 3 ideas that they brought up was marriage certificates, sleeping in different beds, and threesomes. So.
Bum, bum, bum. I love that.
I know you do. But without getting into each of those topics, what has it been like for you, for us to discover and to walk down other ways of being than the societal norms, i.e. marriage certificates, sleeping in beds, threesomes, whatever you could.
Do you want me to just generalize it real fast?
Yeah, just generalize it. Like, what's the journey like for you? Because the reason why I love this question, I wanted to bring it up on here, was because so many guys that listen, the reason they're stuck oftentimes is their paradigm has become their prison. And if they would just shift to a new paradigm, the prison disappears.
Yeah. Some things were natural and easy because I already like to think for myself and been pretty free and don't have those chains holding me. So some things were pretty easy. Some things I wanted to live differently by, just already of just thinking through of how I wanted my life. And some things were harder to overcome because of society has put so much in my head of the time that I live in. And it just seems like the natural progression of things, right? So I had to go through a lot of process and thinking and to see what I really wanted to shed those. So some things were hard and some things were easy.
So
it's case by case, honestly.
Okay, case by case. Let's say one of the hard ones, whatever that, I mean.
Do I say it?
You can, I'm sure there's 10 or 15 that we believe that people don't believe. But without having to say what the specific thing is what is the process that you go through? Is it like, oh shit, I believe this? Why do I believe this?
Okay. The process I go through about some certain things that I have done that are different, that are harder for me to overcome, are just me and going within and thinking, does this situation sound like the best for me? Does it make me the happiest? And what is it really hurting anybody or anything? Like, am I good? Do I actually like it? Yes, I do. I have to shed all that. And then I come to the conclusion, like, you know what? Yeah. I like sleeping alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at first, whatever you've been taught societally, you're like, okay, I'm processing that.
Yeah.
Does the process for you go into the process like, okay, so this is what I've been taught and what I've been told. This is what everybody else thinks. Is there questions you ask yourself? It sounds like you did. Like, well, what? Yeah. I don't know if I'm trying to formalize it.
Yeah, I think you are, and you're trying to get a cute little framework out of it and a cute little saying so you can tell everyone. But this is a brand new concept you're bringing me. But what I just do is I go internal. This is brand new for me too.
I'm curious of what your thought process is.
Yeah, I just start thinking of all the good, all the bad. Is it something that I really enjoy? Is it something I personally really like? And I don't care what anybody else thinks. I just really think about it. And the things that I have chosen for me have obviously been way more of the good. Then I'm like, you know what? I don't even like care at all. Like, what's the negative? Just someone will judge me? Like, that's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
So I start living for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. That's a beautiful process.
I like to think about a lot of things, as you know. Like, I like to process and think about my decisions I make or things. So that's just all I do is is this something I really want in my life? And then I go to the future and I think about it for the long run. And I'm like, this is great. This is, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making this decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good process.
Yeah.
Well,
let's try to make it all cute like you do. But that's all I do is just try to like not think of anybody else in my decision making.
Yeah. It's so hard.
Sometimes it is.
That can be really difficult.
Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's really hard. I think depending on what it is.
I think the more you make the decisions that have nothing to do with society or church or government or whatever, and you push all that aside, the more you make those decisions based off what do you think is right and what do you feel is true, these decisions become easier and easier to make.
I agree.
Yeah, you just start to go, well, so I'm literally gonna, like, I've been thinking a lot about my work hours. Mm-hmm. It's actually the most perplexing question for me in my life right now. Mm-hmm. Is I hate Monday through Friday weekends off. I hate it. And the reason I hate it is because I know it was man's ideal of how to get, it's a work schedule for slaves. Mm-hmm. And I hate it. I don't know a better way.
Like for working out, I don't take the weekend off. I take a day off just for my body, but then I work out like a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yeah.
Like just because it's the weekend.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I question about our society and the way things are built and the way things are and how they are. And I reject almost all of them simply because I see the fruit of what they've gotten somebody. And if they've got a fruit that's not delightful, delicious, and delectable, then I want to deny it and get rid of it. So I was curious at your process. That was a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, my process is probably very similar.
A lot of thinking.
Yeah, well, it's just like I don't know if I'll ever be able to stop this, but I have limited it a tremendous amount of like reading what other people, like literally reading anything else on social media. But sometimes I'll find somebody say something good about relationships, so I like it, and then I'll jump into the comments to see what's going on. And then it's like every idiot on planet Earth is in every comment section on planet Earth. And you're like, oh, why did I read that? Why would I say that? Or why would I even want to pollute my brain with any of these craziness? And it's usually people that don't, it's one of the Earth's mysteries I was not aware of until recently is most people will shame what they really want. And it's because they don't know how to get it. And that one, I was like, oh, that's just the way it is. I thought that was like a select few psychos. You know, like, oh, my aunt's an idiot. So she just thinks that. It's like, no, dude. All of your aunts are an idiot. And most human beings think like that are actually idiots. It was just such a hard concept for me to believe that so many people actually don't know how to truly think at all for themselves. And they just re-parrot everything else. And when you only care about, well, what are the facts? What will bring me the fruit of my life that makes me happy? And stop caring about what other people think, it starts to make you really, really think of and feel life very, very differently.
Well, on the next episode, I have a couple of stories to go along with that question.
Ooh. I like that.
I know you do.
So a little bit TBC, a little to be continued.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, listen, if you got anything out of this, if you're a man sitting here and going, man, I can't get my wife to love me. I don't know what it is. I'm trying X, Y, and Z. You know what you got to do. You got to go to marriedgame.com, marriedgame.com. calm. Watch a video there, book a call. You will talk with me and we will walk through what you need to get what you desire. So also, don't be a nerd. Spread the word
Your face.
and keep crushing it because that shit is contagious.